On the hunt for comfortable, timeless Western boots? You already know the best place to shop for quality boots is at your local Tecova store. So stop by Tecovas Nashville at the Mall at Green Hills or on Broadway by Ryman Auditorium. That's right, you now have 2 locations to choose from. Grab a cold one as you shop and get fitted by a pro. Tecovas Nashville is at your service, and you can find your perfectly fitted dream boots with the help of their expert staff. Everyone will be asking where you got your sick new boots, but I won't be asking because I know they must be Tecovas. That's TECOVAS.com. Don't go gently, y'all. Today on CityCast Nashville, we're getting excited about this weekend's InterNASHional Night Market. It's a unique food festival raising money for the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition, aka TIRC, a statewide nonprofit based here in Nashville. Our executive producer Whitney Pastrek sat down with Lisa Sherman Luna, the executive director of TIRC and TIRC Votes, as well as development coordinator Charles Briones, to talk about what makes their annual fundraiser so special and learn about TIRC's mission to help Nashville become a more welcoming city for all. CityCast Nashville is presented by our exclusive launch sponsor, Tecovas. It's Thursday, September 19th. I'm Grace Hughes, and this is what Nashville's talking about. Take it away, Whitney.
Lisa and Charles, thank you so much for joining us today. Obviously, we want to start by having you tell us about what I think is one of your biggest fundraising events of the year. It's the InterNASHional, see what they did there, night market, and it's happening this weekend. Tell us all about it. It sounds amazing.
It's essentially a food festival where we invite 25 plus immigrant-owned businesses, restaurants, and vendors over to our space here in Antioch. And we spend the night tasting new foods, enjoying performances from 6 to 9 p.m. on September 21st. We have 2 tiers when it comes to the ticketing system here. We have the base admission price, which is $50, and that comes with 6 samples. And you can take 6 samples from the 25 different vendors or immigrant-owned restaurants at the event. We also have like a premium tier that goes to $120, and that is unlimited samples. You can try all 25 restaurants, vendors, and if you'd like to purchase tickets, they'll be online at international.org.
Yeah, you got to go for the unlimited samples, y'all. That's a bargain at any price. And we'll have that link in our show notes for you as well. So you'll be just a click away. And y'all, if you go to the website, you'll see photos from past events. It looks magical. It seems like it's a place where people really feel free to be who they are and represent where they're from.
The really cool thing about the night market is this is our kind of 3rd iteration of the InterNASHional Food Festival. And so when we started this back in 2013, we actually took people down a culinary tour of Nolensville Pike to visit about 60 actually restaurants all down that international corridor. And then of course, when the pandemic happened, we took that remote. We created an international dining guide for folks to visit on their own and to drive Nashvillians to order online from those restaurants. And then when things started to open up a little bit more, we decided to go towards a night market model because we needed to have more open air space. And it was just so lovely to have people outside on our beautiful property in front of our really gorgeous building. And then we realized that's also a way, especially as Nashville continues to diversify and people move all across the city, to expand to restaurants that are beyond Nolensville Pike, that are in Antioch or on Murfreesboro Pike, different parts of the city, and help people have an opportunity to taste the diverse culinary offerings that Nashville and Davidson County has to offer.
I love your philosophy for finding the vendors for this. You're using this as an opportunity to build relationships with restaurant owners, with immigrant and refugee chefs. Tell me a little bit about that process and how you come across whole new folks to invite to be a part of it.
Of course. I think the amazing thing about TIRC is we already have existing relationships with the multiple immigrant communities here in Nashville. So when it comes to reaching out, it's really just a conversation, going over and visiting all these wonderful restaurants all over Nashville. But the tough thing is that Nashville's a very big city and overall Middle Tennessee, right? So we go visit all these restaurants, all these vendors, we reach out to them, and we invite them over to our space so that when people purchase a ticket for our event, it's essentially just going into one location and trying all of these different foods and restaurants all at once.
Right.
You don't have to sit in traffic. You don't have to travel long distances. You just go to one location and you do it.
And I love some of these so much. We just did an episode about the best ice cream shops in Nashville, and we heard about Sarabas. And that just, to me, the idea of Indian flavors within ice cream is so exciting. What are some of y'all's personal faves?
Me personally, I'm Filipino, and we love Filipino representation at the night market. So for me, it'll be Maymax. They have 2 locations, one in Laverne and one in Madison. And we love it when they come to the night market because Filipino food is a little bit harder to access here in Nashville. So whenever they come out and do our night market, it's a great opportunity to try it.
Yeah, and I love the Pepper Pot. It's a Guyanese restaurant, and it's absolutely amazing. We use them for a lot of our events. One of my favorite things about the International Food Fest is watching restaurant owners get to know each other and try each other's food. So it's really cool, some of the friendships and relationships that have been built because of that, and people getting to try even across continents. We have the Guyanese folks trying food from Mexico or from the Congo. And so even our food vendors, they absolutely love it. And they love having folks get to taste their food, but also sharing in other traditions and cultures.
Absolutely. And for people who haven't had the opportunity to visit y'all's building yet, can you talk a little bit about your outdoor space?
Yeah, so in 2020, during a pandemic, we opened our statewide headquarters here in Antioch, which is really, as gentrification has happened, a lot of the immigrant and refugee community has been pushed out away even from Nolensville Pike and from that area and more into the Antioch area. And so we often say this is the heart of the immigrant and refugee community now in Davidson County. And so we have a beautiful space, 7,000 square foot warehouse-like building that is covered in murals. So every single wall has a beautiful mural representing our movement and our people. We have a soccer field with twinkly lights on it. And so we really tried to take inspiration from an Asian night market and create that vibe here on our property. And I think that's what makes this event so special, is you really feel like you are transporting onto another continent and getting to be with other people who enjoy all that Nashville has to offer from our immigrant and refugee community.
There are also performances, as we've mentioned. Charles, who are some of the groups that we can enjoy while we dine?
Yeah, we're very excited this year. We have the Chinese Arts Alliance of Nashville coming to do a performance. And we also have Races de Mi Tierra. They're a Mexican folklore dance group as well. And then later towards the night, we have a mariachi performance.
That's fantastic. I'm from Houston. I love me some mariachis. One of the goals of this event, as it says on the website, and I think this is a really beautiful sentiment, is to build solidarity between the immigrant and non-immigrant communities in Nashville. That seems like it could generate such a beautiful evening. What does that look like in practice at this event?
I think one of my favorite stories is some of our African community members learning and listening to mariachi music and then inviting the mariachi to participate in their own cultural events. And so sort of taking the relationships that are built at our night market and including them in their own cultural events moving forward has been really beautiful to see. I remember some of our Asian community members had a peace vigil and they invited the mariachi to perform then as well. And so it's really cool to see how people get to share in each other's cultures and experiences.
And just to remind everybody, this is a fundraiser. So when we come back, we're going to learn a little bit more about Turk and what we're fundraising for. We are back with Lisa Sherman Luna and Charles Briones from the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition, aka Turk. And we've been talking about their international night market event this weekend. But I really want to take this opportunity to hear about what Turk does. Y'all celebrated 20 years last year. Can you give me a brief history of the organization in general?
Turk was started in 2003 after a successful campaign for driver's license for undocumented folks was passed in the state of Tennessee, which when I tell that story, people are, their jaw just drops. They can't believe that we were one of the first states in the country that allowed folks without a social security number to obtain a driver's license. Right. And it was then that we realized that we needed an organization that was working to build power within immigrant and refugee communities to ultimately benefit our whole state, right? So in the driver's license example, we know that everyone is safer when you have registered drivers who've taken a test, when you have people on the road who feel safe driving because they've got identification and they can get insurance. Unfortunately, that law was overturned, but that's the kind of Tennessee that we're trying to create, where everyone, no matter where you're from, what your racial identity is, or your immigration status is, has opportunities to fully contribute to our communities and to take advantage of everything that the state has to offer. It is a very hostile climate, especially at the state legislature, unfortunately. And so we also try and do work to ensure that we're changing hearts and minds and helping people understand who immigrants and refugees are, organizing our communities, sharing our stories, and ensuring that folks understand that Tennessee won't be successful unless all residents are able to give back to their communities.
Absolutely. And I think that this is a topic that's obviously on people's minds as we go towards this presidential election. We certainly heard plenty about it in the recent presidential debate, where the Republican candidate spent a lot of time attacking immigrants, both new families seeking asylum as well as people who've been a valuable part of their communities for years or even decades. What's the reality? Who are our immigrant communities here in Middle Tennessee? How do they contribute to life here? How do they make Nashville a better place?
Yeah, well, I think one thing that folks don't realize is 140 languages are spoken in Metro Public Schools. And so we have a very diverse immigrant and refugee community here. And it's grown over the years because people have moved here to be closer to their families, to seek jobs, to start their businesses. They see Tennessee as a place that for a while in the 90s and early 2000s was affordable and a place where they could create a better life for themselves. And so as communities have established here, others have moved from other states to join and be in community. And so I think about the Kurdish community specifically, which has grown to be, the largest Kurdish population in the country. And so Nashville itself, or Middle Tennessee, is about 13% foreign born. And it is growing. We've had our first Guatemalan consulate, our first Salvadorian consulate, and we're expecting our first Mexican consulate to open here in Nashville. And they only do that when the populations have grown so significantly that it makes sense to open an office here to provide services for those communities. And, if you ask most immigrant families or community members here, they care about the same things that all of us do. They want a good education for their children. They want good paying jobs. They want to have access to health care. They want to live in safe neighborhoods. And so how are we building together towards these opportunities is really important. And that's why Turk has now started, a climate justice campaign, trying to ensure that immigrant communities that are devastated by natural disasters, just like we were the big tornado in December, have access to resources that help them not only prepare for a natural disaster, but also recover and not be set back generations due to loss from a natural disaster.
I'm so glad you brought that up. So, I worked with World Central Kitchen here in Nashville in the past. And so we were up doing meals, especially in the area around Amqui and Madison that got hit so hard. And I want to commend Turk because your organizers were some of the only other people I saw out there on the ground. And in fact, were invaluable in terms of translating for many of these Spanish-speaking families who didn't want to leave their homes. Oftentimes, it's not just that people are living someplace where a disaster hits, but it's that citywide communication isn't set up to be in Spanish or in Arabic. Talk a little bit about the ways you think Nashville still needs to improve on those fronts.
Language justice is obviously one of them. I think we're still struggling, not just in Nashville, but statewide, with having our basic city services or basic state services available in other languages. And so I remember clearly during the pandemic, we didn't have a public health department website that was available in Spanish.
Oy.
But I think also understanding the particular barriers that our communities face. And so I remember, when we were out in Madison after the tornado, it's so important to build trust. And so I remember a lot of folks who weren't from Turk were knocking on doors and asking, what do you need? And our communities were saying, oh, I'm okay, thank you. And it's because they didn't understand that, no, they had a right to ask for what they needed. And it wasn't until we really got into conversation with them to be like, it's okay for you to say that you need food, we're here to provide food. That's when when we really started to unearth they don't have electricity, they have a huge hole in their roof, they need warm blankets and things like that. And so just really doing the work of building trust in communities and helping them understand that our services are here to meet their needs in times of crisis.
Absolutely. And that's a good transition into my next question, which was outside of organizing and, elevating issues, you also just offer support to ordinary people. Charles, can you give me an example of what that looks like on a day-to-day basis?
If anybody in the community ever needs services, Turk offers many services in the organization. You can also visit our website, tnimmigrant.org, and check that out. And as far as our community building and community organizing, we have staff involved who go out to communities, spread information regarding the services that we have, but also like certain resources. We offer naturalization classes as well as English classes and many more when you visit that website.
You've got another really important partner organization, Turk Votes. This is your C4, is that correct? Political action arm. Lisa, can you tell me a little bit about what that is and when that started and what your work is like there?
Yeah, so wearing my Turk Votes hat.
She has to change hats legally.
Which is the political arm of Turk and was established in 2018, a completely separate entity. But just recognizing that we are in a state where we have to change the makeup of our legislature in order to create opportunities, not just for immigrants and refugees, but for all working class people in this state to be able to thrive and not have to worry about how they're going to pay the hospital bills or how kids are going to be safe from gun violence in school. And so we established in 2018 to really expand the electorate, registering voters, but also getting out the vote. As Senator Charlene Oliver likes to say, we are not a red state. We are a non-voting state. And so a lot of our work is ensuring that immigrant and refugee voters have information about voting, feel comfortable voting, and understand not just the process, but also who the candidates are that are going to stand up for our communities and fight for our values. Since 2018, we've been doing that work, going door to door, but also, reaching folks through digital ads, mailers, having a robust process for candidates to earn our endorsement and expanding statewide. And so every election cycle, every single immigrant and refugee voter in the state gets a touch point from our organization, whether it's a phone call, a door knock, a mailer, or a digital ad, encouraging to get out the vote, because we know that a lot of it is about building trust and helping people understand the process.
Yeah, I was going to say it feels like canvassing very similarly to disaster relief. Folks are going to respond better if it's someone who at least speaks their own language, if not from their own community, who shows up at their door.
And it's been so cool to watch how now, after doing it for 6 years, the doors that we were knocking on in 2018, when we knock on now, they're actually now reliable voters. They have turned out in every election cycle because we've been there reminding them to go out to the polls.
But you're also training organizers who will have a future in sort of shaping the political conversation in years to come. And in fact, I think one of your former organizers is running for office himself this year. Is that correct?
That is correct. In the past 6 years, we've trained over 600 immigrant and refugee youth to do this work. They represent about 80 different countries. And as we like to say, it's the world in which we want to live in. One of our former staff members, Luis Mata, is running in Rutherford County. And we're so excited for him to be doing that and taking that risk to run for office. And we'll be getting out the vote for him this election.
As someone who has spent so much time knocking doors, I think once you get a taste for it, you kind of want to do it all the time. So I'm just thrilled that y'all are continuing to teach the next generation. All right, last question. And I'd love for you both to weigh in on this. We spend a lot of time calling Nashville a, quote, welcoming city. We love to refer to ourselves that way. Have we actually achieved that? And if not, what can our listeners do to help?
I'd say overall, I'm going to go with a yes. I do believe that Nashville is a welcoming city. I think Turk, being an organization that's in the forefront of that, is what makes me happy that I work here.
So actually, in 2019, we released a policy platform called Beyond Welcoming. So it's not enough to say that we're a welcoming city. We actually have to start implementing policies and practices that make us a welcoming city. And so our communities are facing a lot of the challenges that every Nashvilleian is facing. Affordable housing, for example, transportation issues, right? And so how are we building a city that is working towards making it more accessible for everyone, including immigrants and refugees? And that's why we're going to be supporting the Mayor's Transit Plan this November at the ballot box, is because we know that our people need sidewalks and they need buses and they need better traffic lights that get us to and from work in a timely manner, right? But we also need those buses to be available in multiple languages and for people to feel safe on them. We need city IDs for our communities to be able to identify themselves when they're interacting with local government, for example. And so there's still so much that we can do, and it's really important for us that we stop paying lip service to the welcoming piece of Nashville and actually start putting in place policies that help people succeed in our city.
Thank you all so much for your time today. I'm so excited for the event that's coming up this weekend. I really hope to see a bunch of folks out there, and hopefully some new folks who maybe weren't familiar with Turk before and want to learn more about what you do or get more involved in the resources that you're able to provide. So thank y'all. We appreciate it, and keep up the good work.
Thanks, Whitney.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news around the city. Bye!